Okay. All right. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We are back. We are today going to be looking at the Torah portion. We'll be going through the Torah portion as per usual. We'll be looking at Genesis 44 and 45. We want to kind of go through the story, and then I wanted to deal with something that that kind of came to mind as I was looking at these particular scriptures that I want to bring out. So we're going to go ahead and get into Bereshit, Genesis chapter 44. Let me pull this up over here. Let's see. Genesis. We'll go ahead and read through Genesis 44, and then we'll talk a little bit about it after we go through. So let me put it up on the screen here. Okay, go ahead and read that nice and loud.
Genesis 44:1. And he commanded the one over his house, saying, Fill the men's sack with food as they are able to bear, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, and the silver for his grain. And he did according to the word of Yoseph, which he spoke. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their donkeys. And when they had gone out of the city, not having gone far, Yoseph said to the one over his house, Rise up, follow the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, Why have you repaid evil for good? Is this not the one from which my master drinks, and with which he indeed divines? You have done evil in what you have done. So he overtook them and spoke these words to them. And they said to him, Why does my master say these words? For far be it from us, that your servants should do according to this word. See, we brought back to you from the land of Canaan the silver which we have found in the mouth of our sacks. How then should we steal silver or gold from your master's house? With whomever of your servants it is found, he shall die, and we shall become my master's slaves as well. And he said, Now also let it be according to your words. He with whom it is found becomes my slave, and you in Benjamin's sack. And they tore their garments, and each man loaded his donkey and went back to the city. And Yehudah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, and he was still there. And they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said to them, What deed is this you have done? Did you not know that a man like me indeed divines? And Yehudah said, What do we say to my master? And what do we speak? Or how do we clear ourselves? Elohim has found out the crookedness of your servants. See, we are my master's slaves, both we and he with whom the cup was found. But he said, Far be it from me to do this. The man in whose hand the cup was found, he becomes my slave. And you go up in peace to your father. And Yehudah came near to him and said, Oh, my master, please let your servant speak a word in my master's hearing, and do not let your displeasure burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh. My master asked his servant, saying, Have you a father or a brother? And we said to my master, We have a father, an old man, and a young child of his old age. And his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. And you said to your servants, bring him down to me and let me set my eyes on him. And we said to my master, this boy is not able to leave his father, for if he leaves his father shall die. But you said to your servants, unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you do not see my face again. And it came to be, when we went up to your servant my father, that we told him the words of my master. And our father said, go back and buy us a little food. But we said, we are not able to go down if our younger brother is with us. Then we shall go down. For we are not able to see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Then our servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons, and the one went out from me, and I said, truly he is torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. And if you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you shall bring down my gray hair with evil to Sheol. And now, if I come to you, to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, since his own life is bound up in his life, then it shall be, when he sees that the boy is not with us, that he shall die. So your servant shall bring down the gray hair of your servant, our father, with evil to Sheol. For your servant went guarantee for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall be a sinner before my father forever. And now, please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a slave to my master, and let the boy go up with his brothers. For how do I go up to my father if the boy is not with me, lest I see the evil that would come upon my father?
Okay. Very good. All right. So, looking at the chapter, picking up where we left off over there, we're at the place where, we see Joseph is doing these various things, putting his brothers through these tests. One, it seems to know the heart of these ones who actually sold him into slavery, done this hideous and kind of atrocious thing that they've done to their brother. But as he's doing that, he's also learning of his younger brother and the condition of his father, wanting to see them as well. So he's like taking them through these motions or whatever, to get them to this place. Something in particular that kind of came to my attention as I was looking at this, which caused me to think about kind of the main topic that I wanted to go over today. The idea of letting to the title being "Let It Be Known." I put an ellipses there because I didn't want it to be so long, but let it be known who it is that you serve, right? Because we'll see as we get into the next chapter that Joseph is about to reveal himself, but not before he goes through all of these preliminary things, right? But something that I saw while we was going through this, while I was going through it during the week, in the chapter over here, if we look back, if we go all the way back to, found this pretty interesting here. First of all, let me get back. We're going to look at verse the 4th verse here. But I want to get my materials up here so we can look at a particular word here. We want to look at over here, verse 4, where it says, hold on, verse 5, actually. Is this not the one from which my master drinks, and with which he indeed divines? Look at this. Because we see, when we look over here, we see Yoseph is talking to his to the people that's over his house. We can see that, right? And go and rise up, follow them, and ask them these questions. And the thing that he's asking them here, kind of struck my attention, because when we look at this word here, divines, if you look that up, wait a second. First, I gotta click on the verse. Okay, whereby indeed he divines, which, if you notice, this is a word here, H5172, but here it's doubled there for emphasis. Usually when we see it in the King James, they'll put something like this here, indeed, right? But the word, interestingly enough, is nakash. Nakash. And so, right, it's interesting, right? So let's look at this some here. Let me just do this. We look at this word nakash. If anyone actually, hold on. Anyone actually knows, this word nakash actually is the word that's translated as serpent in the in Genesis. If we was to go back to Genesis, here I might as well just go back to Genesis and show you, right? If we go back to Genesis chapter 3, and we see there the scriptures gives us a little footnote, but it says, and the scriptures version don't even translate it, and the Nachash was more crafty than all the lives in the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. Like I said, in KJV says, now the serpent is what it says. So the translation of Nachash is serpent. It literally means, if we look over here, it literally means to hiss, right? So the word that is used to describe or given to the serpent, he's named after the sound that he makes, that hissing sound. Okay, so what caused this to be interesting to me is, why are we talking about Joseph and something that he does and it's associated with this word here, nakash, which, again, if we look at the definition, it means probably to hiss. That is whisper a magic spell, generally to prognosticate divine enchantment, so on and so forth, right? And so this, to me, seemed a bit interesting because, again, like I said, we're talking about Joseph over here, right? Why is he messing around with this cup, right? If we look at some other places, If we look at some other places here, let's pull up, let's see here. Let's pull up Genesis 30. Genesis 30. 27. Here, read that verse there for me.
Genesis 30:27. And Laban said to him, If I have found favor in your eyes, please stay, for I have diligently watched that Yahweh has blessed me for your sake.
Okay, very good. So we see over here, our word here is right here. Diligently watched. Diligently watched is the word nakash. All right, let me prove it to you just in case you don't believe me. Learned by experience. If we look in the King James, it says learn by experience. Here's our word, 5172, nakash. Okay, this translation says diligently watched. And so when we think about how it's used over here, this word nakash, you could think, well, Laban did some divining to find out that Yahweh was the one that was blessing Jacob over there. You could think of it like that. But I think a better way to think about the usage of this, and even they help us with the translation where they say diligently watched. It's kind of self-evident to see, watch the blessings fall, and you don't have to guess about blessings, right? Blessings are coming, and so he sees that they're going on, and so it's kind of obscure here to say whether Laban was literally doing divining to know where the blessings was coming from. But if we look over, because obviously we do know that Laban was into some pagan practices, because when his daughters left, they was sure to take their little idols with them, right? But here I'm saying that it's kind of iffy to know. It's not explicitly shown to us that it was divining that let him know that the Most High was blessing him. So we're looking at this just to say, is this word something that we look at and it's just always intrinsically something that's bad? From here, it's not that clear. If we look over, and maybe another verse, maybe it'll help us some. If we look in Deuteronomy 18, in verse, let's see, 10. What's that say? Deuteronomy 18, verse 10. What's that say there?
Let no one be found among you who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or one who practices divination, or a user of magic, or one who interprets omens for us, or a sorcerer.
Okay, so let's see. Where's our word here? Is going to be an enchanter, right? That's our word here, nakash, enchanter. And so here we see a clear prohibition that's given, that's connected with this word. So when we think about this, this word here, nakash, right? It's about gaining this kind of spiritual knowledge,
kind of hidden knowledge, quote unquote, like secrets.
It's I guess it's about secret knowledge not privy to most. And then so how you go about getting that knowledge, I guess, is the thing that kind of muddies it up, right? Because we can gain hidden knowledge from the Most High. But obviously, if there's a prohibition that's given by the Most High in regards to getting this hidden knowledge in other ways, now it seems as if it must be a possibility then, right? But my thing here is that why is it that that Yoseph is being connected with this thing? Because we can know that he can be classified as a diviner of sorts, because he does acquire this hidden knowledge from the Most High. The Most High gives him this knowledge about dreams. This is knowledge that's hidden. Other people want to know what he knows, but they can't know, but he knows. So I guess from a general perspective, if we're just going to say that he hears these whispers that tell him this hidden knowledge, then we can just say, all right, fine, Nakash. But why do we have this cup? This cup thing is kind of the thing. So when we look over here in Genesis in our story in chapter 44, we see that Joseph's cup, this divining cup, is found. And so I think the problem comes later when we look at verse 15. When we look at verse 15, because again here, let me get back to where we are here. At 14, I mean at verse 5, all he's doing is just saying that there is this cup and it's a diviner's cup and he has it. But it don't mean that he uses it for divining. He could just have a cup, this trinket. He's with these people. Maybe they gave it to him. He was this diviner. He was able to know these secrets that no one was able to know. This interpreter of dreams. And then somebody decided, well, I'm going to give you this cup. We use it for divining, but just as a token of our appreciation for you and your abilities, we're gonna give you this thing. We know you don't use these things for these purposes, but here's this cup, right? So if we're just at 5, we can be thinking about it like this, because we know he owns the cup. It's his cup, right? He owns it, and it is indeed a diviner's cup. But if we go down to 15 now, he says, Joseph said to them, what deed is this you have done? Did you not know that a man like me indeed divines? Okay, so now again, we're looking at this and what is going on, because it seems now he's connecting the cup with divining over here. Now we can almost attempt to explain this away, before we get to this, because like I said, he could just have a cup, right? A literal divining cup. But over here in verse 15, he's basically saying, I bet you didn't know that I divined when they found the cup. I bet you didn't even know that I divined, did you? With these cups, did you not know that a man like me indeed divines. And again, over here, again, is divine, right? They doubled up on it. So indeed divines, right? So how are we supposed to interpret this? How are we supposed to look at this? We know that these are not things that the Most High is into. We know that he's not into this whole idea of divining, because what they would do was they would take their divining cups. It was like a big cup, like a chalice looking cup, or like maybe even like a bowl that they would take, and then kind of like how whoever those people are that put like tea leaves in the cup, and they watch how the leaves fall and it tells them things. I don't know who those people are, but maybe Chinese people. I don't know who does that. But you had this cup and you put various things in the cup. This is what these people did over there in Egypt. And you put the things in the cup, and then you watch what happened in the cup, and those things kind of whispered to you, kind of like Groundhog's Day. Kind of like Groundhog's Day, whenever the man with the hat and the stick give him the ability to divine and hear what the groundhog is saying to him, right? So you have these different things that are giving you these special abilities. But we know that if we go backwards, we know that Joseph gained his knowledge from the Most High, right? And so
it seemed like he just heard what the dream was and knew what it was.
He just knew what it was. It wasn't like, it seems like the way that it's kind of goes through, it seems as if, the knowledge is just given to him, just automatically. Anyways, it don't seem like the way that it was. It didn't seem like there was like a process, like he heard it and then he went back and thought about it and came back. It just seems the way that it's written. It could be, we don't know. But the point is that we know that the Most High is the one who's given him these abilities. And so when we look over here and see this whole thing with this diviner's cup and Joseph, even using this thing as the piece that's kind of bringing all of this whole story together, is just interesting to me.
It kind of, when I see it, kind of makes me think about the fact that he's bringing it all under the umbrella of his dreams and interpretations. With his brothers, going down.
You mean like his abilities? You mean?
Yeah, his divining abilities.
Yeah.
Like he had the brothers take this symbolic thing.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that they stole, quote unquote, but then they had to give it back.
Yeah. Almost as if, now we're just thinking about this out loud, right? Almost as if it kind of signifies how in the beginning they poo-pooed his divining abilities. You mean you gonna sit up here and have these dreams and we gonna sit up here and bow down to you? Right? Like they just didn't give it no weight at all. Like they didn't care nothing about, like the audacity of you to sit up there, almost like that is going on, like with them taking it away, right? But then in the change that happens within them, right? They see it. Well, they get I guess here the silver they saw here, they just get caught outright. But I guess in the symbology of it all, of them taking it and them having to give credence or acknowledge the fact that he really is a diviner. He really does hear from the Most High, these messages that he receives, he really does get. So I guess when the more you think about it, I guess you can see kind of the story kind of encapsulated in this whole thing with the divining cup being taken and brought back. But that was, you just was thinking out loud right there with that one. But when we think about this now, we have to consider, before we say, if we say that he did use the cup for divining, we have to consider the fact that Torah proper didn't exist. When I say Torah proper, I mean the covenant that was made with Israel between the Most High and his people, the contract, the conditions of the contract didn't exist. So there were things that was permissible in this time that once Torah came down, it wasn't permissible. And so, not to say that divining is one of those things, but just thinking about it from a general perspective, that thought process is valid. We know that the Most High had commandments, but what those were specifically, we don't have that kind of given to us, because the law, like I said, at this point had not been codified as of yet. But there was a law that was passed down from the forefathers. We know that because if we go into Genesis chapter, what is it? 17, 18 and 19. Read verses 18 and 19 right there.
Since Abraham is certainly going to become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known him, so that he commands his children and his household after him to guard the way of Yahweh, to do righteousness and right ruling, so that Yahweh brings Abraham what he has spoken to him.
Okay, very good. So we see over here that there is a way of Yahweh, because the Most High trusts Abraham to guard the way of Yahweh, to do righteousness and right ruling, and command his children and his household to do so. So we know that there is a way. We just don't know exactly, what that way is, right? Because, again, when we look over here and we see, things like, sacrifices, for instance, they knew what animals they were supposed to sacrifice to the Most High back then. They knew that. That was a law. That was a way of Yahweh that they knew. Not till later on does the Most High say sacrifices can only be sacrificed in a specific area, not just anywhere where you are. Not until later. But up until then, they were setting up altars all over the place, right? And so, we can see right there that, when we look, that there is a way of Yahweh at this time, To us, of course, looking backwards, to us is non-specific, right? We don't know exactly what that way is. But we can probably, I would say, assume that divining isn't part of that way. We can probably assume that, but again, it's not explicitly given to us like that, because generally speaking, the Most High don't like idolatrous practices, right? In general, he don't really mess with these outer influences, right? So again, we can kind of make that assumption, but again, it's not given to us explicitly as something that he says that he don't want for us to do. If we think about the family situation, Jacob is a perfect example where he has two sisters as wives. To him, it's nothing. It's not an issue, because the Torah law wasn't codified at that point, didn't come down. There was a way of Yahweh, but we don't know what that is. But we know, according to when the Torah came down, you couldn't have two sisters. You could have two wives, but you couldn't have two sisters that are sisters as your wife. That just wasn't something, right? And so when we think about this whole thing again, it just gives you kind of the looking at it and understanding that there's a possibility for there to be certain allowances for certain things prior to when the Torah comes down. Okay, but all that being said, we know that Joseph's divining actually came down from Yahweh, right? So we can look at this whole situation, and it can help us to think about our situation, the situation that we are in currently. We're here in this land, this place where we live. There might be some things that appear to be like other things, but we have to be sure that there is a distinction between those things and us and the things that we do, because we, as the people of the Most High, are to be set apart, right? And so when we look at the story, there's some obscurity for whatever reason. Not to say he did or didn't do something wrong, but just for us looking at it, it's not explicit. But I'm saying, and for our situation, when we look at that situation and kind of bring it up to our situations, we have to make sure that the thing that we're doing is explicitly known, and we're not sitting up here being confused with idolatry, right? With Nakash, right? So there has to be a distinction between us and those things which can be considered evil, because when we look back, we don't have the same potential excuse that Yoseph would have, right? Not to say that he did do divining, but again, we don't know what extent that cup was used for. But I'm saying that it could have just been part of the thing that he was doing, because like I said, he did have the divine knowledge, and the cup is just part of the act.
Gave him the divining cup as a gift because they just thought he had to have one.
Yeah, how you divine without a cup? Here, you need this, right? You should have this anyway. But I'm saying, but us on this side, we don't have the excuse that Joseph potentially would have had on this side, right? So here, let's look over here. Let's look at some more scriptures over here. Let's pull up John 14 and read verse 23 and 24.
Yeshua answered him, "If anyone loves me, he shall guard my word, and my Father shall love him, and we shall come to him and make our stay with him. He does not love me, does not guard my words, and the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father who sent me."
Okay, very good. So when we look at this now, this right here is what you call new covenant talk. There's some new covenant talk over here. Because the law, right, that he's talking about, this word that you're guarding, right, is something that's placed in your heart, from the Spirit. And now it's causing action, right? This word placed in your heart is causing action, right? He's talking about the Spirit in you. So there's a connection between the word and your actions, right? I can know, right? It can be known that you are one who loves Yeshua if you're one that guards his words, his explicit words, right? We don't got to think about the words, right? His explicit words, not his words, not Yeshua's, not the man Yeshua's words, but his Father's words that sent him, right? His commands. So again, when we think about this from that perspective now, there's a connection between the way in which you're being and your relationship with the master. And the way in which you be, I'm saying that on purpose, the way in which you be is a direct correlation between your relationship with the master. And so if I look at you and the things that you're doing, and the things that you're doing look just like the world, dramatic pause, then what is that, right? You must not love Yeshua. Because if it says right here, if anyone loves me, he shall guard my words, right? The people that love Yeshua guard his words. They keep his words. They make sure his words don't get trampled, right? He makes sure that his words don't become null and void. The ones that love Yeshua, right? So again, there's a direct correlation between your the how you be and your relationship with the master, right? And so Yeshua, even right there, is saying, let it be known by your actions who your master is. Let it be known, right? When we look back at the story, for us, there's obscurity a little bit. It's unclear. Is he messing around with them? Is this part of the thing? What is it like? But I'm saying for us, as we are, in these days and times, it can be obscure. There can't be any ambiguity as to who it is that we serve. We can't be going around here looking like the world, right? Like the Egyptians, right? We can't be going around here looking like these Egyptians. I know.
I hear the pen sound.
I don't know. Right? It's got to be clear, right? Because that is a way that we guard the words of Yeshua. The ones that don't guard the words, those are the ones that don't love him. That's what it says right there. He who does not love me does not guard my words, does not keep my commands. And then again, like I said, this is new covenant talk. We're talking about keeping his words. It's about that spirit being inside of you and manifesting the words in and through you. Right? So when we get to the bottom of it, we're talking about that ruach inside of you and you walking in that spirit. So we could say, he who does not love me, don't walk in the spirit. We could say, don't even have the spirit in order to walk in it. But I guess that's irrelevant, because if he has it and don't walk in it, it's no good to you anyway. So you really in the same boat. So we can't live our lives. We can't live a life of righteous ambiguity, right? People shouldn't look at you and just be like, oh, that's a good brother right there.
Yep.
Just in general, just not connecting to anything, right? It should be connected to Yeshua, right? If the way that you walking and the way that you living is not something that exemplifies the master, then I'm saying that it probably should be altered a bit so that Yeshua is able to shine through, right? Because anybody can do things, right? But this ain't about just doing things. It's about manifesting Yeshua, right? And letting it be known who your master is, right? There can't be any confusion as to where your power comes from and who your power is, right? Let's look at some more of these verses over here. If we go to Deuteronomy, Devarim 4, verse 4. Let's see, 4 down through verse 8.
But you who are clinging to Yahweh, your Elohim, are alive today, every one of you. See, I have taught you laws and right rulings, as Yahweh my Elohim commanded me to do thus in this land which you go to possess. And you shall guard and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the people who hear all these laws, and they shall say, only a wise and understanding people is this great nation.
Hold on, read that verse again.
And you shall guard and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the peoples who hear all these laws, and they shall say, only a wise and understanding people is this great nation.
Okay. Okay, keep on going. Read down through 8.
For what great nation is there which has Elohim so near to it, and as Yahweh our Elohim is to us whenever we call on him? And what great nation is there that has such laws and righteous right rulings, like all this Torah which I set before you this day?
Okay, very good. So when we look at this, right? When we look at these verses over here, this thing that Moshe is giving to the people, that he's talking to the people about over here, he says in verse 7, I guess he says, He's talking about the laws of the Most High, right? These commands that's been given, these things that you are supposed to do, which is the character of the Most High humanized, right? And when you're doing these things, he said in verse 6, you shall guard and do those things. For those things, this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the peoples. So the people is supposed to look at you and see you walking in this wisdom and understanding, first of all. And seeing you, they should look at you and be like, wow, that's a wise and understanding individual right there before my eyes as I'm looking at them. Right? They shouldn't look at you and be like, that's silly, so and so. If somebody looking at you and the thing that they think about is silliness and foolishness, then you ain't doing something right. Something's wrong. All right. They're supposed to be looking at you and saying, look at that look at the wisdom and the understanding that lies within that person over there. But not only that, right? Not only that, it says, who hear all and they shall say, only a wise understanding people is this great nation. Oh, verse 7. For what great nation is there which has Elohim so near to it as Yahweh, our Elohim, is to us whenever we call on him? So there's a connection between what you're doing and the Most High. It eventually points back to the Most High. They're not just going to sit up there and say, oh, he's just that guy, he's just wise. Right? But your wisdom and your understanding is going to point back to the one who gave it to you. The Most High. Yahweh, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? And so when we think about this idea of, letting it be known who it is that you serve, again, we have to be, when we talk about being a light to the nations, it's not just about, it's about where did that light come from, right? What's the derivative? What's the origination of that light? Right? Where did it start? It's Yeshua. It got to point to Yeshua. It got to point back to the master, right? Because again, anybody can do things, but if the things that you're doing is not pointing back to and illuminating the way in which you got that light, then I don't know what that is. Okay. So again, we're talking about this just because of what we saw over there in Genesis with Joseph. Again, not to say that he did or didn't do something that was wrong. But I'm saying that because of the fact that we have the obscurity, I believe it's showing us that we have to be able to eliminate that obscurity and let it be known who it is that we serve, and not allow for there to be any questions as to, where our righteousness originates. All right, let's look at this over here. Let's go to Yeshayahu chapter 61. Read verses 1 through 3. 1 through 3. Yes.
Okay. The Spirit of the Master Yahweh is upon me, because Yahweh has anointed me to bring good news to the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim release to the captives, and the opening of the prison to those who are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of Yahweh and the day of vengeance of our Elohim, to comfort all who mourn, to appoint unto those who mourn in Zion, to give them embellishment for ashes, to oil the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, and they shall be called trees of righteousness, a planting of Yahweh to be adorned.
Okay, very good. So when we think about this, the connection here is look. When we think about we start at 61. The spirit of Yahweh is upon me. When that spirit is upon you, there's actions that should be manifest, right? It's not something that just come. It's not something that's there to come and just lie dormant in your body, right? There's actions that are supposed to be associated with this spirit that's coming to dwell on the inside of you. Again, we look back to the words of Yeshua, what he said: if you love me, you'll guard my words, right? There's some action that's connected with the fact that you love him, right? And the same thing is true over here. And we see in Yeshayahu 61:1, where it says, the spirit is upon me. It's been because Yahweh has anointed me to bring good news to the meek, to do something, right? He has sent me to do something, right? Bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim release to the captives, and the opening of the prisons to those who are bound. That's why the spirit came upon them, so that those things can be done, right? And to proclaim the acceptable year of Yahweh. It all comes back to the Most High and the day of vengeance of our Elohim, right? And so again, we look at what the spirit does in us, what it should be doing. The spirit's in there, and it wants to be known among men. The spirit in you don't want to be a secret. The spirit wants to cause you to do things, and the spirit wants you to cause you to do things that give glory to the Most High. That's that. If you was to look up the, you know how you go and you get a prescription, and you get the little facts about the prescription that you get at the pharmacy. The little facts that you would get about the Ruach HaKodesh coming and living and dwelling on the inside of you is that the spirit wants to be known by people. Right? There's a direct correlation between you even having the Ruach HaKodesh and you being able to manifest that to those that see you. Right? Not secrets. It's not a secret society. It's not one of those things that, you know, you get all of the answers, but you can't tell anybody where it is that you got the answers from. The spirit in you wants to manifest Yeshua in you and through you. That's just that's the natural progression over there. Let's look at another verse over here. Let's look at Psalms 22. Psalms 22 and 23. Read that word right, that verse right there.
You who hear Yahweh, praise him.
That ain't what it said.
Oh, you who fear Yahweh, praise him. All you seed of Jacob, esteem him and fear him. All you seed of Israel.
Okay, what we thinking about over here is this. Esteeming him, or I think King James might say glorifying him, right? You're putting high value on him and dealing with him as such, right? That word is kavod in the Hebrew, right? And kavod is about weight. You're making this a weighty thing. It's not like a that's nothing thing. Like it's a weighty thing, right? It's heavy, right? It got substance. It's a substantial thing, right? Well, I'm saying thing, but we talking about the Most High, right? He's weighty, right? He's a substantial thing, right? And again, we think about kavod. Kavod is weightiness, but it's also light. So we're able to, where there's an understanding as to the significance of the weightiness, right? Because it's connected to the light, who is the Most High. So when we talk about this idea of glorifying him or esteeming him, think about this. When we think about Moses, and there we go. When we think about Moses and his greatest transgression against the Most High, and the thing that caused him to not be make it into the kingdom, it was about not giving the Most High glory. It was about not glorifying the Almighty in his deeds. He let what was supposed to happen. He let the people get their water, right? He let the people get their water, even though Moses struck the rock. You said even though he didn't deserve it.
They didn't deserve it.
He is thinking about something else.
Those people didn't deserve the water.
They was thirsty. That's why they was acting like that. I'm just saying, the Most High allowed for that deed to be done, but there was repercussions as a result of it because of the fact that Moshe didn't glorify the Most High. He didn't give him his propers. And so if we sit up here and we go around here in our righteousness and we're just so righteous all the time, doing all type of good stuff for everybody, but we're not letting it be known who it is that our master is, then we got some problems over here. Right? We're creating this ambiguity over here where people got to sit around and wonder, why is he so righteous? Like how we was doing with Joseph. Like, why has he got that cup? Like, what's he doing with that? Like, where does he get his divining stuff from? Like we're sitting up here thinking about it. That's how people could potentially be sitting around here looking at you people out there. If you're not letting it be known who your master is, Yeshua. If you're not glorifying him, in this earth, right? If you're not manifesting your light, which is Yeshua in you. Okay, so we can think about Yoseph here, like I said, because of the idea of this ambiguousness that is involved in the story, right? But I'm saying, I said all that. But it really just, I really, if we look at this, I think the answer really is in the text for us, right? If we go back, to Genesis at 44 and look at this, I don't really think he owns up to literally using the cup for divining, right? It's just about there being a cup and them having it, and that he indeed does he divines, right? He knows based on these secret whispers that he receives from the Most High what's going on. So as part of the storyline is going, and the people, his brothers, supposedly taking this cup, right? As if Joseph wasn't somebody who would know from a spiritual perspective, who wouldn't see this this thing happening as it was happening. Because when you think about it, the brothers is looking around. They were followed because of this cup that they supposedly stole. They don't know if one of the other ones took it or not. They don't know that. And then when they see that it got taken, they're like, what is this? Like, how does this even happen? Right? And we look at verse 15 where it says, "What deed is this you have done? Did you not know that a man like me indeed divines?" As if to say, you should have known that I would know that some funny business was going on, right? Knowing that, who he is. And so when we look over here, when we continue on with this story and it goes down and they go through all of this, we see we see that Yosef, really, all of this is just part of this grand scheme to eventually show them who he is. And so I just want to look in the next chapter. I just want to look at a few verses. I don't want to read through the whole thing. But if we go through, let's just read in the next chapter, just the first 3 verses real quick. I don't go too much longer. I'll talk about a couple more things. Go in the next chapter. Just read for us 1 through 3 right there. Oh, wait a second. Let me pull it up. Okay, Genesis 45, verse 1. Read down through the 3rd verse.
And Yosef was unable to restrain himself before all those who stood by him, and he called out, "Have everyone go out from me." So no one stood with him while Yosef made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, and the Mitzrites and the house of Pharaoh heard it. And Yosef said to his brothers, "I am Yosef. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers were unable to answer him, for they trembled before him. Then Yosef said to his brothers, "Please."
Wait,
Sorry.
that's good.
Sorry.
Okay, so we see over here in the next chapter, he can't contain it anymore. He can't keep on doing this with his brothers. He's learned enough. He's just ready to just let it be known, right, who he is, right? I am Yosef. I'm the one. I'm your brother. I'm right here. Is daddy? How's daddy doing? Like, is he still alive? right? He can't even contain himself anymore, right? But what I wanted to look at that I think is relevant to what we're talking about, if we go down and let's see, go down to verse 8. Verse 8.
So then you did not send me here, but Elohim, and he has set me for a father to Pharaoh, and master of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Mitzrayim.
Okay, so when we look over here, what it's two things that's going on with Yoseph and what he's doing with his brothers, right? For the first of all, he's taking the blame away from his brothers and the guilt away from his brothers. You know, you're not the one. You're not the one who did this, right? You didn't send me here, right? You didn't. It's not you that sold me to slavery, left me in this hole for dead. It wasn't you, right? You didn't do it, right? But Elohim, the Most High, right? So he takes the blame and the guilt away from his brothers, but he gives the glory to the Almighty, right? That put him in this place, right? And so, you know, part of his big reveal was not only letting them know that, you know, their long lost brother is still alive.
You've been working with him all this time.
Yeah, and been blessing them all this time, you know. But not only that, but that the Most High, this is something that was orchestrated by the Almighty, and he was behind it the whole time. And he is sure right here to put all of that on Yah, to let it be known that Yah is the one that that has made all of these things happen. And so I think that it's important for us to be able to recognize how it is the Most High moves. Not only recognize how it is that he moves in our lives, but to let it be known how it is that he moves in our lives, right? And not to just let it be this thing that just, you know, that just happens, and that Yah never gets the credit for it, right? Because when we think about this idea of giving Yahweh his glory, you know, that's what this is, you know, that's what he desires from his people, right? If we look at Isaiah 42 verse 8, let me pull that up real quick. Isaiah 42 and verse 8. 42 verse 8. I read that real quick.
I am Yahweh, that is my name, and my esteem I do not give to another, nor my praise to idols.
Okay, very good. So it says right over there, my esteem, my glory, my the great magnitude that belongs to me, I don't give to another. Right? The honor and respect and reverence that belongs to me, don't give that to another. Right? And so when we're able to recognize what it is that the Most High is doing in our lives, don't give that esteem to another. Let it be known who it is that is doing this and that in your life. And then you know, just as a side note, you know, he's doing all kinds of things in your life. Right? It don't even got to be some kind of miraculous, you know, walking on water, feeding 5,000 with a loaf of bread and 2 fishes. It don't even got to be that. He's doing some things, right? And yeah, he's doing things that you don't even know that he's doing, that he done kept you from, that you don't even know. And so there's always glory to be given, right? There's always an opportunity to let it be known who your master is. And he wants that. And so when we look over here and we see that, when we look at the story of Joseph and all that's transpired and how they went through all of this stuff, where he's able to just that quick, just take it out of the hands of the brothers and give it right to the Most High, right? Because from a physical perspective, you could look at it and it seems as if it's all their fault. They're so wicked. How could they do this? Right? But when we think about it from the Most High's perspective, they had to do all of that just so that they could even survive to this point. Otherwise, they'd been dead. They wouldn't have been able to make it. There's no food, right? Everything. What would have happened if Joseph wasn't there? Right? And so when we look at that, when we look at it from a spiritual perspective and see that, we take it all the way out of the hands of those brothers, however they was, and we can understand that the Most High is the one that orchestrated the whole thing from the beginning, and he's the reason why Joseph was there in the first place, even able to be there for them to receive from Joseph. The whole nation benefited from what it is that Joseph did.
I think about it, you could always start with the jealousy of brothers, but then it goes back to the favoritism of the father.
Yeah.
Then it goes back to Laban's deceit and how he gypped Joseph anyway out of his wife that he wanted in the first place. You know what I mean?
You can just keep on going back and back and back.
And goes to Jacob running away because of deceit towards Esau and his father, Isaac, and so it just keeps going back. But it was all planned for bringing the people into Egypt to eventually bring them into redemption.
Yeah. And so I'm saying that in our situation where we are, the same thing is true. Is where we could sit around and look at all of the things that goes on in our lives that's going on around us, and we could look and try to figure out from a physical perspective why this is happening, why that's happening, what's this person's problem, why they keep doing this to me, all of this and all of that. But at the end of the day, we need to look at the Most High and understand that he's the one that is controlling all of the things. And he's the one that is able to, when we're able to rely on him, that he's able to move us through. And right, so there's things that could be going on that we don't even know the backstory of it. We don't even know all of the intricacies that are involved in it. Like Tirza was just saying, if we sit up here and try to follow backwards all of the reasons why it is that Joseph ended up being where he was at, it goes back before the brothers. It goes all the way back to, before he was even born. And so, again, the same thing is true for our situation. So we have to always be able to, first of all, look to the Most High and know what it is that he is out here doing. But not only that, but to be able to give him his glory and let it be known, who it is that is behind all of the things that you do and receive. Because when we look at the scriptures, what we just looked at in terms of this idea of glorifying the Most High, but the Most High wants his credit. Yeshua wants his credit, right? And there's something to be said for those who do not give that credit where credit is due. And I want to kind of just look at these verses in Matthew just to finish up with. Let me pull it up real quick. Matthew chapter 10. Look at verses 26 and read down through 33. Matthew 10, 26 to 33.
Therefore, do not fear them, for whatever is covered shall be revealed, and whatever is hidden shall be made known. What I say to you in the dark, speak in the light. And you who hear in the ear, proclaim on the housetops. And do not fear those who kill the body, but are unable to kill the being. But rather fear him who is able to destroy both being and body in Gehenna. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a copper coin, and not one of them falls to the ground without your Father? And even the hairs of your head are all hairs. And even the hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not fear, you are worth more than any sparrows. Everyone, therefore, who shall confess me before men, him I shall also confess before my Father who is in the heavens. But whoever shall deny me before men, him I shall also deny before my Father who is in the heavens.
Okay, very good. So when we see over here, verse 32, everyone who confesses me before men, him I shall also confess before my Father. Right? So when we think about this idea over here, it's very important, right? Because that's what we sit up here talking about this whole time, this idea of letting it be known who your master is, who it is that you serve, right? When you're able to do that, when you're able to let it be known, when you're able to not have this secret relationship with the Father, right? But a public, open one. Look, your relationship with the Father got to be Facebook public. Right? It's not a secret. Right? It's not a secret relationship. It's not something that's complicated. Right? It's an open relationship that people are able to see. And that's what the Spirit in you wants to do anyway. The Spirit wants for you to manifest Yeshua. The Spirit in you doesn't want for you to be this person who's not able to allow the Spirit in you to manifest and work and do the things that are connected with the Father. If we think back to the verses in Isaiah, the Spirit generated action, and that action pointed back to the Father. It wasn't some something, some non descript, some things that people didn't know or whatever, you knew that this thing was coming from the Almighty. And that's how we have to be. But most importantly, when you look at verse 33, whoever shall deny me before men, him shall also I also deny before my Father who's in the heavens. And so when we think about this, it's not always about somebody, coming up and asking you like that. It could be that. It very well could be that, right? But it could be just about how, like I said before, how you be. When you going around and you have this secret Messiah, this secret master that you follow, and nothing that you doing is pointing back to Yeshua, you're denying Yeshua before men. That's what you're doing. You're denying Yeshua before men, right? And so we have to get to the place where it is known who it is that you serve. Nobody got to sit around and think about, who or what you are and who your master is, right? Because you probably done told them already a million times, right? It's something that is clearly able to be seen, right? And so I just started thinking about this because of those couple of verses where it just for a minute caused me to think, is he off into this dividing stuff over here, right? Just for that minute, right? Even though I guess when you look further, you find out that that's not the case, right? But I'm saying that we have to be able to live our lives in such a way where there's not a question. There's not a question as to who it is that you serve. You serve the Master Yeshua. That guy over there, he serves the master. That lady over there, she just looked like she served Yeshua. Right? That's how we have to be in these days and times. Okay, so like I said, we need to let it be known who it is that we serve, and that our master is Yeshua. All right. So that being said, that's all we're going to say about that for now. I want to remind everybody we have this. I just want to say too, by the way, I could make this some digital nice little thing, but we do this way with this sign here to go through with the kids and everything. Not just because I'm just want to be some kind of low tech. This is a functional thing. I'm just showing it to you all here, sharing it. Yeah. So all that being said, today is 21 days, which is 3 weeks and 0 days of the Omer. We have went through these 3 weeks. We got 4 more weeks and a day to go before we get to Shavuot. And I want to just continue to remind everyone that, Shavuot's about spiritual refinement. Right, so we have to be taking our ingredients and stirring them up in the pot these 50 days, so that we can get to this beautiful product in the end. Those loaves of bread, and so we need to be taking the extra time out in our lives to look at things and make your various adjustments or whatever that you got to make in your situation to strive towards refining, being refined, allowing the Spirit to refine you so that you can become a better servant for the master. Because at the end of the day, you're a representative for Messiah, right? You're a representative for Yeshua. And so when people looking at you, and the only way that they're able to see Yeshua is in you, and looking at you in your lacklusterness, right? You are not being a good representative to Messiah. So we should always be striving for perfection in our walks, and trying to see how it is that we can be better in this life. And so I just want to leave you with that. And we'll say for now, Shabbat Shalom. And y'all willing, we'll be back next week to continue on with the Torah portion.
Yeah.
Shabbat shalom.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.